Humbert here, and today we're going to be doing Unit 1, Notes 8. So we're going to talk about graphing lines. So we learned a bunch of different types of lines on the previous note sheets, and now we're going to talk about how you can go about graphing each method. So let's first take a look at graphing just in slope-intercept form. So the first thing you want to do is identify the b or the y-intercept. Now remember that that's the thing that's being added on. Next, you're going to graph the y-intercept. So find where it is on the y-axis and plot that point. Then you're going to use slope to find the next point. So the slope, remember, is always rise over run. So I do want you guys to write this down so you have it for future use. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at graphing for number 1. So for number 1, we have negative 2/3 x plus 3. So that plus 3 means we're crossing the y-axis at 3. And then from there, our slope is negative 2 over 3. So since it's negative 2/3, that means we're going down 1, 2, and over 1, 2, 3. And I'm plotting that point. So now I'm simply going to connect that and make a line. So there's my first line. Now taking a look at number 2, I see that we're crossing the y-axis at negative 6. So I'm going to go ahead, here's my y-axis, and I'm going to find negative 6, which is right here. And then I'm going up 1 and over 4. Remember, slope is always rise over run. So up 1 over 4, plot that point. So then I can go ahead from there and I can extend that out. And I have my line. Now, let's take a look at number 3. So for number 3, we actually have to write our slope-intercept form. Remember that slope-intercept form is y is equal to mx plus b. Well, I know that my m is going to be 3 since my slope is 3. So I substitute out the m and I put 3 in instead. And my b is going to be a negative 5. So I'm going to graph the equation y is equal to 3x minus 5. So I'm crossing the y-axis at negative 5. Then my slope is 3. Well, 3 is the same as 3 over 1. So I'm going up from the slope 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to go over 1. So then from here I can go ahead and connect these dots to make a pretty line. And there's my answer for number 3. Taking a look at 4, again, I'm going to use that y is equal to mx plus b thing. So my slope is negative 2, so I'm going to put that in, and then x. And then my y-intercept is 2, so I'm going to be adding that on secondarily. So then I'm crossing the y-axis at 2. And my slope is negative 2, which is really the same as negative 2 over 1. So then, I'm going down 2 and over 1. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to graph that line. Okay? So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the next one. So graphing a point or lines in point slope form. So the first thing you're going to have to do is solve each of the equations for y, which you did practice on some of your practice sheets. So you'll solve each of the equations for y, and then you're going to follow the steps to graph a line into slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at number 5. So for number 5, first thing I need to do is solve that equation for y. So I have y minus 3 is equal to 2 times x plus 1. So the first thing I want to do is take that 2 and distribute it in. So I have y minus 3, 2 times x is going to give me 2x. 2 times 1 is going to give me 2. So then what I want to do is get that minus 3 over to the other side. So I do that by adding 3 to both sides because that's the opposite. Now when I add 3 to both sides, I'm only going to add it to those 2. I can't add it to the 2x because it doesn't have an x with it. So I have y is equal to 2x plus 5. So I'm crossing the y-axis at 5. Well, I notice that if I go up 2, I'm going to be off the graph. So let me teach you a little trick. If you need to go up and right, you could also go down and left. So I went down 2 and left 1, and you'll notice that when I connect those, that is indeed still a positive line. It's still going upwards. Okay? So now let's take a look at number 6. So for number 6, we're going to go ahead and distribute in the 1/2. So I have y plus 4, and that's going to be equal to 1/2 x. And when we take 3 and multiply it, or -3 and multiply it by 1/2, that's the same as taking 3 divided by 2. So let's just do that as a decimal. That's going to be -1.5. So now I need to subtract 4 from both sides so I can solve for y. So I get that y is equal to 1/2 x. Then -1.5 minus 4, that's really like adding the two of those together. It's going to get more negative. And that's going to give you a -5.5. So we're crossing the y-axis at a -5.5. So I'm going to go down, here's -5, and I'm going to go halfway to 6 and plot that point right there. My slope then is 1/2, rise over run. So I'm going to go up 1, which means I'm going to go halfway between -4 and -5, and then I'm going to go over 2 and plot that point. So I can go ahead and I can connect these 2 points and make them into a line. So that is your final answer for number 6. Now, let's take a look at graphing lines in standard form. So when you graph lines in standard form, you need to solve the equation for y. So we need to, again, solve for y, and then, just like before, you can follow the same steps as graphing in slope-intercept form, because once you solve for y, it is in slope-intercept form. So let's go ahead and let's take a look first at number 7. So we're going to solve number 7 for y. So we have 4x plus 2y is equal to 8. So the first thing I want to do is get my 4x over to the other side. So I notice that it's a positive 4x. So to get it over to the other side, I need to subtract 4x. So then I get that 2y is equal to -4x plus 8. Then from there, I need to divide both sides by 2. So when I divide both sides by 2, I just get left with y. I divided both sides by 2 because this 2 is already being multiplied by the y. Then -4 divided by 2 is -2, and then x, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now we're going to go ahead and graph this line. So we're crossing the y-axis at 4. That's our intercept is 4, and then our slope is -2, which is the same as -2/1, which means for my slope, I'm going down 2 and over 1. So I'm going to go ahead and graph that down 1, 2, and over 1, and plot that point. So now I'm going to go ahead and graph that line right there. So that's my final answer for number 7. Now let's take a look at number 8. So I have 6x minus 3y is equal to -12. So what I want to do is solve for y. So I'm going to subtract 6x from both sides, and I get -3y is equal to -6x minus 12. Again, this is a positive 6x, so that's why I had to subtract off the -6x. So then that -3 is being multiplied by the y. So to get it over to the other side, I need to divide both sides by -3. So y is equal to, now I need to divide both of these pieces by a -3. -6 divided by -3, well, that's going to become positive because we're dividing two negative numbers. That's going to be a positive 2 and then x. -12 divided by -3 is going to be a positive 4. So I have y is equal to 2x plus 4. And now we just need to go ahead and graph that. So we're crossing the y-axis at 4. And then our slope is going to be a positive 2. So I'm going up 2 and over 1 and plotting that point. And then all I need to do is connect the dots. So that concludes your note video for today. Go ahead and show me a completed note sheet once you're done. Thanks for listening.